I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go.
Hi guys, I'm Emma. Welcome back if you've been here before, and if you're brand new then thank you so much for joining us. Today I wanted to talk about Hamilton on the West End. So it's also on Disney Plus if you haven't seen it. I was going to give a quick review, kind of share my experience of going watching Hamilton in London, and also kind of doing a comparison with Disney Plus, but not really. So we'll just see where we get into. But first off, I wanted to say thank you to my little sister. She bought tickets for Hamilton for Christmas for us to go and watch it, and super excited. I'm absolutely obsessed with Hamilton on Disney Plus, so it was a great idea to get us to go and watch it in Victoria Palace, which is where we went, where it's on at the moment. The tickets are always sold out, so I don't know how she managed to do that, but I feel very grateful. So let's start off with getting to London and things like that, especially during this time. So we live outside of London. We don't actually live, we live like maybe an hour and a half outside of London, but we drove in to London, parked up and got the tube into central London. We did some touristy things, so we went to the Natural History Museum, we went to the Ivy, and then we went to the 2:30 showing of Hamilton at Victoria Palace. At the moment they're doing, they're checking your COVID passes or proof that you have tested negative. So for me that was quite important because London is obviously at the moment a hive of infection, and going in felt a little bit dangerous, especially we live in like a small town, so it's easy to avoid people, but in London it's quite busy, isn't it? So it was a little bit scary, but when they started doing that, that was nice. They weren't letting people into the theatre early, so there was a huge queue, and we queued up outside, and then they checked our bags and they checked our passes and they allowed us to go in. Victoria Palace, if you haven't been there, is absolutely beautiful. It's a really pretty theatre. We sat up in the Grand Circle, but you can just tell that people have enjoyed seeing plays and shows and musicals and artists there for years and years and years, and it's just so pretty. So this might just be something for me. I don't want to generalize and say that it's everyone in the UK, but I feel like in school, and also I went to school a little while ago, so it could be completely different now, but in school we didn't really learn that much about like American history. Obviously in the UK we learn about UK history, so I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really know what Hamilton was about. I couldn't have gone in and tell you hardly any of the characters, if I'm honest. I'd never really heard of Alexander Hamilton before the show, especially not like the Schuyler sisters and things like that. So watching Hamilton on Disney Plus made me kind of understand what was going on, and I definitely got like an idea of kind of the history, and I'm not saying that it's 100% true because it probably isn't, but it gave me some kind of idea of what went on around those times because I had zero idea beforehand. And that is something I would say if you're going watching Hamilton especially, but I like to do it before like I go and see any show, at least listen to the songs. For me, I've watched Hamilton on Disney Plus so many times that I know all of the songs now. So when I went, I knew the story, so I knew what was going on, which for me was a real benefit because I could just kind of watch it play out in front of me real time and not have to be like, what is going on? So that's something I would recommend doing because some of the songs are so fast and some of the words are so fast, and I think it's lyrically quite clever. Like a lot of the things are kind of twisted and put into songs, and you know there's suggestions at things that you might not catch if you're watching it just for the first time. So if you really want to, I would recommend like sitting down watching it Disney Plus, or at least listening to the songs so that you kind of know the basic storyline of what's going on. One thing that I really liked, because when you watch it on Disney Plus, when you watch Hamilton on Disney Plus, the camera zooms in on the little bit that it wants you to see, so you get to see like the main actors, and you're not focusing too much on the staging, you're just focusing on like the bits that the camera wants you to see. Whereas when you're watching it live, you can see the whole stage, and this is where for me the costumes really came into play. So a lot of the ensemble are in like beigey, I'll put a little picture up, probably this side, beigey kind of outfits. They look great, but also it keeps you focused on where you're supposed to be looking. So like if a character is in the scene, they kind of have a different jacket or a different outfit or things like that, to help you focus on where you're supposed to be focusing on. But also a lot of the characters are stood around the stage a lot of the time, like what kind of watching, I guess, or like just being extra bodies, which you don't see quite as much of when you're watching it on Disney Plus. So that's something I enjoyed keeping my eye out for. One thing that I found really interesting is that in the Disney Plus version and in the Westend version, my favourite actors, I guess, or my favourite characters were completely different. So in the Disney Plus version, I am a huge fan of Jefferson. I think he's so funny. I love Daveed Diggs, but I didn't know who he was before I watched Disney Plus. So I watched Hamilton on Disney Plus. So yeah, I would say, yeah, he's my number one character. And also I liked King George in the Disney Plus version. So that was who I was expecting to really love when I watched it on the Westend. But my favourite were actually Hercules Mulligan, and when he turns into Madison, I really liked him. And I really liked George Washington. So we were looking through the book. Just let me tell you who the actors were that the actors that played those. So George Washington was Trevor Dion Nicholas, and then Emil Ruddock played Hercules Mulligan and James Madison. And I just thought they were so strong. The vocals, it was amazing. And Emil Ruddock playing Madison and Hercules Mulligan really gave us some laughs at some points, which was really cool. Another time actually that we found really funny was, obviously King George comes on and he's quite funny. He played it very differently to how it's played on Disney Plus, like obviously less spitting and things like that. But there were, towards the end, so after he comes on, if you've seen it then you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, he comes on a couple of times. The second time that he came on, we knew he stayed on stage for a little while because he does that in the Disney Plus version, but then he went up the stairs. So the staging's kind of on two levels. You've got like the stage and then like a scaffolding, wooden staging. He went up the stairs and he was there for a really long time, and every now and again he would give a little bob, but he also joined in with some of the dancing. So that was really interesting because I don't know if he does do that normally or if that was just something that had happened this time. Maybe there was someone missing. But yeah, I really enjoyed seeing him as part of the scene, like as the king, and then also as part of the scene to change. I think they were like slowing down time to change the timing and to be as part of the scene. That was really interesting. I think for me, watching it live meant that I really got to benefit from the extra things. So like, you've obviously got the main characters and they're doing their thing and they're all up in the front, but a lot of Hamilton is very visual. So like, they're moving chairs around slowly as part of the dance, or like they're moving their bodies, and a lot of the dance moves, if you watch them on their own, they're quite funny, but a lot of them are like slow and steady, and you got to really watch and see what was going on around the stage rather than focusing on what the camera is telling you to focus on, because it's an entire visual experience. If you don't know, or maybe you do know and you haven't realised, or maybe you just do know, but Hamilton is super long. So I think it's like 2.5 hours and it's only got a 15-minute interval. So it just shows how hard everybody works on the show, because they're on stage most of the time to dancing or performing or singing or acting, you know, and it must be so exhausting. So it was super impressive to see everybody dancing around and getting to the end of the show there. I really enjoyed it. Also, just in the area of Victoria Palace, there is quite a few restaurants. So if you were looking to go and see the show, we went at 2:30 and we got out about 6ish, maybe a little bit earlier than that. So if you were looking, 5:30, we got out about 5:30. So if you were looking for somewhere to go and eat, there's plenty of places around there, and it's also right opposite Little Ben. So obviously we've all heard of Big Ben, but there's also a really teeny tiny little version of Big Ben, which was cool to see. The theatre looks great at night. It's easy to get to from Victoria Station or Victoria Underground. If you can get tickets, I 100% would recommend it. And I definitely now want to see Hamilton again. Well, I'd love to see it again on the West End, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that. But I'll be watching it on Disney Plus over and over, I think. They also were doing a thing on... I'll leave a link to the website because I can't remember the ticket website that we use, but they're doing a Hamilton lottery. So you can go onto the website and I think it's £10 per person, and then you're kind of entered in if like people don't turn up for their tickets, or if seats become available and you're able to get to those seats, then you can do that, and that's a great way to like get some great seats for a really discounted price. Obviously it's not guaranteed, but some people have been getting like really great seats and they're just paying the £10 then, so that's really cool. While I was there, I picked up, we were lucky as well, we had Giles Terrera as our bear, so they stuck this little sheet in. I think he was only bear for January. He's been bear before, but I think he's only bear until the end of January. So that's Giles Terrera. And he was amazing. I really like, is it Leslie Odom Jr.? Yeah, I really like him as bear. So I don't think anybody will ever beat him as bear for me, but he was great. I picked up a program. I also picked up a t-shirt which I should have been wearing for this one, but I forgot. But it's got stars all over it. It's got London on the back, and it's got all of the characters in the stars. And then I picked up a program. They had 2 programs on offer. A big one, like it was way bigger than this, and it had all of the original cast in it. And then I picked up this one because it's got the London cast in it, and that's who I saw. So on the back it just says who lives, who dies, who tells your story. And then it's got what I thought was really cool. So obviously it tells us a little bit about Victoria Palace and shows that are coming soon. It tells us about the book. It's got the real Alexander Hamilton, so I can learn about, I haven't read this through yet, so I can learn about the real Alexander Hamilton. And then it's got a little picture of Lin-Manuel Miranda there. I'm just going to flick through this quickly. It tells you about how they went about creating the play and making it a show. It's got a brief timeline just there, so it tells you all the years of things, you know, while we're singing through. That's a couple of pages long just there. It's got a little bit of history about Victoria Palace and some pictures and drawings just there. And then this is a picture of Victoria Palace, and also this is a picture of Victoria Palace. For those of you that haven't been there, those of you that have been there are like, shut up Emma, this is boring. And then it's got the cast list and some pictures of them behind the scenes. It's also got all of the standbys, all of the swings, understudies. It tells you everybody in the production team, which I think is great because we don't often give the production team enough credit for what they do, and the orchestra. It's got all of the musical numbers in the order that they're sang, which is great because if you really liked a song, you could be like, this is the one that I like. It says approximate running time 2 hours and 45 with a 15-minute break, which isn't very long. We get to learn all about the cast, where they came from, where they trained, what they've been doing. The creative team, all about them as well, what they've worked on before. And then a list of shows that are coming up. So that was really fun. I've enjoyed flicking through that, and I like that they had the option to have the book with the cast that we saw in it, because there's no point getting the one with the original cast in it if I've not seen them live. But yeah, that was my experience. I felt safe. We kept our masks on the entire time, which I don't know if that will be the case going forward or not, but obviously at the moment it was. It's made me want to go and see more shows, which I always want to do but I never get around to. Let me know if you've seen Hamilton in the West End or in London, or in America, because I think they're the only places it's on at the moment. But let me know if you've seen it live, or if you like it, and if you're in love with it on Disney+. Thank you for watching and listening to my experiences. I hope you realise that I loved it, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.